Hi, we are reading today the third chapter of Lamb's Tales from Shakespeare. We stopped yesterday on the last video here in Midsummer Night's Dream, and the next story it's Much Ado About Nothing. It's the today's history, and you keep continuing reading with me. I am by now subtitling the preview video, and the YouTube already legendary subtitle it with the artificial intelligence, but I am improving it by my own hands, and it's a very good artificial intelligence because it's hard to it wrong a word I say. So I want to point in that the artificial intelligence machines are being very helpful and strong means to help me make these videos. So thank you, YouTube. Anyways, we are keep going. And you keep following my journey beyond that book. I hope you are enjoying, like me, are enjoying doing these videos. Much Ado About Nothing. The people in the history. Leonato, governor of Messina. Don Pedro, the Prince of Aragon. Claudio, a lord of Florence. Benedict, a lord of Padua. Don John, half-brother of Don Pedro. Borachio, a priest. Hero, daughter of Leonato. Beatrice, niece of Leonato. Margaret and Ursula, gentlewoman waiting for a hero. Beatrice overhears Hero and Ursula talking about her in this image. This is page 41 and page 42. Oh, I wrong. It's 42, 43, 44. Much Ado About Nothing. Benedict and Beatrice. There lived in the palace at Messina two ladies whose names were Hero and Beatrice. Hero was the daughter and Beatrice the niece of Leonato, the governor of Messina. Beatrice was of a lively temper and loved to move her cousin Hero, who was more serious with her clever talk. Just checking if it's all okay. Hero was more serious with her clever talk. Whatever was happening was sure to make matter of laughter for the light-hearted Beatrice. At this time, some young men of high rank in the army came to visit Leonato. Among these were Don Pedro, the Prince of Aragon, and his friend Claudio, who was a lord of Florence. And with them came the wild and witty Benedict, and he was a lord of Padua. These strangers had been at Messina before, and the governor presented them to his daughter and his niece as their own old friends. Benedict, the moment he entered the room, began a lively talk with Leonato and the prince. Beatrice, who liked not to be left out of any talk, broke in upon Benedict, saying, "I wonder that you will always be talking, Sir Benedict. Nobody listens to you." Benedict was just as talkative and witty as Beatrice, yet he was not pleased at his free speech. He thought it did not become a well-bred lady to be so light with her tongue, and he remembered, when he was last at Messina, that Beatrice used to choose him to make her merry jests upon. And as there is no one who so little likes to be laughed at as those who are apt to laugh at others, so it was with Benedict and Beatrice. These two sharp wits never met in former times, but a perfect war of clever talk was kept up between them, and they always parted displeased with each other. Therefore, when Beatrice stopped him in the middle of his speech with telling him nobody listened to what he was saying, Benedict, pretending not to have seen before that she was present, said, "What, my dear lady, this then? Are you still living?" And now war broke out again between them. Beatrice, although she knew he had so well proved his courage in the late war, said that she would eat all he had killed there. And seeing the prince take pleasure in Benedict's talk, she called him the prince's jester. These biting words sunk deeper into the mind of Benedict than all Beatrice had said before. There is nothing that great with so much fear as the charge that they are jesters, because that comes sometimes a little too near the truth. Therefore, Benedict perfectly hated Beatrice when she called him Prince's Jester. Claudio and Hero. The lady Hero was silent before the noble guests, and while Claudio was careful, observing the improvement in her beauty and the graces of her fine figure, for she was an admirable young lady, the prince was listening with pleasure to the talk of Benedict and Beatrice, and he said in a whisper to Leonato, "This is a pleasant-spirited young lady. She would be an excellent wife for Benedict." Leonato replied to this, "Oh, my lord, if they were only a week married, they would talk themselves mad." But though Leonato thought they would make a quarrelsome pair. The prince did not give up the idea of matching these two keen wits together. When the prince returned with Claudio from the palace, he found that the marriage he had planned between Benedict and Beatrice was not the only one that he had been thought of there. For Claudio spoke in such terms of Hero as made the prince guess at what was passing in his heart, and he liked it well. And he said to Claudio, "Do you think of Hero?" To this question, Claudio replied, "Oh, my lord, when I was last at Messina, I liked it, but had no time for loving. But now, in this happy time of peace, thoughts of war have left their place empty in my mind, and in their room come crowding soft and pleasant thoughts, all telling me how fair young Hero is, reminding me that I liked her before I went to the wars." These words of Claudius so moved Prince that he lost no time in asking the consent of Leonato to accept Claudio for a son-in-law. Leonato agreed to this proposal, and the prince found no great difficulty in persuading the gentle Hero itself to listen to the noble Claudio, who was a lord of great gifts, and wise and skilled, and Claudio, helped by his kind prince, soon persuaded Leonato to fix an early day for his marriage with Hero. Claudio was to wait only a few days before he was to be married to his fair lady, yet he complained of the time being wearisome. The prince, therefore, to make the time seem short to him, proposed as a kind of merry pastime that they should think out some clever plan to make Benedict and Beatrice fall in love with each other. Claudio entered with great pleasure into this strange thought of the prince, and Leonato promised them his help, and even Hero said she would do anything she could to help her cousin to find a good husband. The prince's plan was that the gentleman should make Benedict believe that Beatrice was in love with him, and Hero should make Beatrice believe that Benedict was in love with her. The prince, Leonato, and Claudio began to work first, watching their chance when Benedict was quietly seated reading in the garden. The prince and his helpers took their position among the trees, so near that Benedict could not help hearing all they said. And after some careless talk, the prince said, "Come here, Leonato. What was it you told me other day? That your niece Beatrice was in love with Benedict? I did not think that lady would have loved any man." "No, nor I either, my lord," answered Leonato. "It is most wonderful that she should so love Benedict, whom she in our outward ways seemed always to dislike." Claudio then said that Hero had told him Beatrice was so in love with Benedict that she would certainly die of grief if he could not be brought to love her, which Leonato and Claudio seemed to agree was impossible, since he had always spoken against all fair ladies, and in particular against Beatrice. The prince pretended to listen to all this with great pity for Beatrice, and said it would be good if Benedict were told of this. "Why," said Claudio, he would but make laughter of it and trouble the poor lady worse. And if he should, said the prince, it would be a good deed to hang him, for Beatrice is an excellent sweet lady and very wise in everything but in loving Benedict. Then the prince made a sign to his companions that they should walk on and leave Benedict to think about what he had overheard. The trick succeeds. Benedict had been listening with great eagerness to this conversation, and he said to himself when he heard Beatrice loved him, "Is it possible? Does the wind blow that way?" And then, when they were gone, he began to reason in this way with himself. This can be not tricky. They were very serious, and they have the truth from hero. And since to pity the lady, love me. Why, it must be returned. I did never think to marry, but when I said I should die a bachelor, I did not think I should live to be married. They say the lady is virtuous and fair. She is so, and wise in everything but loving me. Why, that is no great proof of her folly. But here comes Beatrice. By my word, she is a fair lady. I do some marks of love in her. Beatrice now approached him and said with her usual sharpness, "Against my will, I am sent to ask you to come into dinner." Benedict, who never felt himself willing to speak so politely to her before, replied, "Fair Beatrice, I thank you for your trouble." When Beatrice, after 2 or 3 more rude speeches, left him, Benedict thought he observed a hidden meaning of kindness under the hard words she spoke, and he said aloud, "If I do not take pity on her, I am a bad man. If I do not love her, I am a bad man. I will go and get her picture." Now, Beatrice. The gentleman being thus caught in the net they had spread for him, it was no hero's turn to play her part with Beatrice, and for this purpose she sent for Ursula and Margaret, 2 gentlewomen who waited upon her. And she said to Margaret, "Good Margaret, run to the sitting room. There you will find my cousin Beatrice talking with the prince and Claudio. Whisper in her ear that I and Ursula are talking in the garden, and that our talk is all of her. Tell her to come and listen." "I will make her come. I promise you at once," said Margaret. Hero, then taking Ursula with her into the garden, said to her, "Now, Ursula, when Beatrice comes, we will walk up and down this path, and our talk must be on of Benedict, and when I name him, let it be your part to praise him, more than ever man deserved. My talk to you must be how Benedict is in love with Beatrice. Now begin for look where Beatrice, like a shy bird, runs close by the ground to hear your speech." They then began hero saying as if in answer to something which Ursula had said, "No, truly, Ursula, she is too proud. She is as shy on wild birds of the rock." "But are you sure," said Ursula, "that Benedict loves Beatrice so completely?" Hero replied, "So says the prince and my lord Claudio, and they begged me to tell her. But I persuaded them, if they loved Benedict, never to let Beatrice know of it. Certainly, replied Ursula, it would not be a good thing for her to know his love, lest she made fun of it. Why, said the hero, I never yet saw a man, however wise or noble, young or beautiful, whom she would not blame. Sure, sure, such cruel judgments are not good, said Ursula. No, replied the hero, but who dared to tell her so? If I should speak, she would laugh me into air. Oh, you're wrong, your cousin, said Ursula. She cannot be so much without the true judgment as to refuse so fine a gentleman as Sir Benedict. She was a very good name, said the hero. Indeed, he is the first man in Italy, always excepting my dear Claudio. Hero then told her that she was to be married to Claudio the next day, and asked her to go with her and look at some new clothes, as she wished to ask her advice about what she would wear. Beatrice, who had been listening everything eagerly, indeed to his talk, when they went away cried out, what fire is in my ears? Can't this be true? Benedict, love on, I will repay you, taming my wild heart to your loving hand. It must have been a pleasant sight to see these old enemies turned into new and loving friends, and to behold their first meeting after being tricked into liking one another by merry plan of the good-humored prince. But a sad change in the fortunes of Hero must now be told of. The next day, which was to have been her wedding day, brought sorrow on the heart of Hero and her good father Leonato. Villainy. The prince had a half-brother who came from the wars along with him to Messina. This brother, his name was Don John, was a sad, discontented man, whose spirits seemed to labor in the planning of villainies. He hated the prince, his brother, and he hated Claudio because he was the prince's friend and resolved to prevent Claudio's marriage with Hero, only for the cruel pleasure of making Claudio and the prince unhappy, for he knew the prince had set his heart upon this marriage almost as much as Claudio himself. To carry out this wicked purpose, he employed one Borraccio, a man as bad as himself, whom he set with the offer of a great reward. This Borraccio had made himself pleasant to Margaret, Hero's attendant. Don John, knowing this, persuaded him to make Margaret's promise to talk with him for her lady windows that night after Hero was asleep, and also to dress herself in Hero's clothes, in order to, and also to dress herself in Hero's clothes, I repeat that, in order to make Claudio believe that it was Hero, for that was the end he meant to reach by this wicked plan. Don John then went to the prince and Claudio and told them that Hero was a careless lady and that she talked with men from her window at midnight. Now this was the evening before the wedding, and he offered to take them that night, where they should themselves hear Hero talking with a man from her window, and they consented to go along with him, and Claudio said, if I see anything tonight, why I should not marry her tomorrow in the congregation where I intend to be joined to her. There will I shame her. The prince also said, as I helped you to get her, I will join with you to shame her. When Don John brought them near Hero's room that night, they saw Borachio standing under the window, and they saw Margaret looking out of Hero's window, and heard her talking with Borachio, and Margaret being dressed in the same clothes they had seen Hero wear. The prince and Claudio believed it was the lady Hero herself. Nothing could equal the anger of Claudio when he had made, as he thought, this discovery. All his love for the good Hero was at once turned into hatred, and he resolved to expose her in the church, as he had said he would the next day. The prince agreed to this, thinking no punishment could be too hard for the wicked lady, who talked with a man from her window the very night before she was going to be married to the noble Claudio. No wedding. The next day, they all meet in church for the marriage, and Claudio and Hero were standing before the priest, and the priest was about to make them man and wife. Claudio, in the most angry language, made now the guilty of the blameless. Hero, who altogether surprised at the strange words he spoke, said quietly, "Is my lord well, that he speaks so?" Leonato, in the utmost horror, said to the prince, "My lord, why do you not speak?" "What should I speak?" said the prince. "I stand dishonored, for I have tried to join my dear friend to an unworthy woman. Leonato, upon my honor, myself, my brother, and this poor Claudio here saw and heard her last night at midnight talk with a man at her window." Benedict, in wonder at what he heard, said, "This looks not like a marriage." "True God," replied the heart-struck Hero, and then this unhappy lady sank down in a fainting fit, to all appearance dead. The prince and Claudio left the church, without saying to see if Hero would recover, or at all considering the sorrow into which they had thrown Leonato, so hard-hearted had their anger made them. Benedict remained and helped Beatrice to recover Hero from her faintness, saying, "How is the lady?" "Dead, I think," replied Beatrice in great grief, for she loved her cousin, and knowing her goodness, she believed nothing of what she had heard spoken against her. Not so the poor old father. She believed the history of his child's shame. Not so the poor old father. She believed the history of his child's shame, and was piteous to hear him weeping over her, as she lay like undead before him, wishing she might never more open her eyes. But the old priest, as a wise man and full of knowledge of human nature, and he had carefully noted the lady's face when she heard herself accused, and he said to the sorrowing father, "Call me a fool, trust not me reading, nor my knowledge of man. Trust not my age, my reverence, nor my calling, if this sweet lady lie not here most falsely charged." When Hero had recovered from the fainting into which she had fallen, the priest said to her, "Lady, what man is you are accused of? Hero replied, they that accused me now, I know, I've oft known. Then turning to Leonato, she said, oh my father, if you can prove that any man was ever talked with me at unsuitable times, or that I last night changed words with any creature, refuse me, hate me, torture me to death. Wise priest. There is, said the priest, some strange misunderstanding in the prince and Claudio, and then he advised Leonato that he should report that Hero was dead, that he should put on mourning and build a tomb for her, and do all the burial ceremonies. What will be the food of this? Said Leonato. What will this do? The priest replied, this report of her death shall change evil thoughts into pity. That is some good, but that is not all the good I hope for. When Claudio saw her, she died upon hearing his words. The idea of her life shall sweetly creep into his mind. Then shall he mourn and wish that he had not so accused her? Yes, even though he thought his charge is true. Benedict now said, Donato, let the priest advise you, and though you know how well I love the prince and Claudio, yet on my honor I will not tell the secret to them. Leonato, thus persuaded, gave away. So the kind priest led him and Hero away to comfort them, and Beatrice and Benedict remained alone, and this was the meeting from which their friends who had made the merry plan against them expected so much laughter. Those friends who were now beaten down with grief, and from whose minds all thoughts of merriment seemed forever driven away. Benedict and Beatrice. Benedict was the first who spoke, and he said, Lady Beatrice, have you wept all this while? Yes, and I will weep a while longer, said Beatrice. Certainly, said Benedict, I do believe your fair cousin is wronged. Ah, said Beatrice, how much might 10 men deserve of me who will right her? Benedict then said, is there any way to show such friendship? I love nothing in the world so well as you. Is not that strange? It would be as possible, said Beatrice, for me to say, I loved nothing in the world so well as you. But do not believe in me, and yet I do not lie. I confess nothing, and I deny nothing. I am sorry for my cousin. But my sword, said Benedict, you love me, and I swear I love you. Come bid me do anything for you. Kill Claudio, said Beatrice. Oh, ha! Not for the wide world, said Benedict, for he loved his friend Claudio, and he believed he had been saved. Is not Claudio a bad man that has wronged and dishonored my cousin? Said Beatrice. Oh, that I were a man. Hear me, Beatrice, said Benedict. Here is Kill Claudio, said Beatrice, an image of Beatrice asking to kill Claudio. To Benedict. He is Benedict. She is Beatrice. He will use for the man. She will use for the lady. Much Ado About Nothing is the title of the story we are reading today. I'm getting a lighting problem with my window. I will light up my room's light. Wow, cool. I hope get better. I think the audio is good. Please comment it in that video and give me a like if you can understand, and give me a feedback so I can improve my reading and can improve this video scene to be better for who are watching that. And thank you. Here is Gnomo Fractal, and I am from Brazil, and I learning read in English. I know to read, but I have difficult in the speaking. But because of that, I made in that video to improve myself and to learn. Everyone have something new to learn every day, and that's the message I would to share with the people in the internet. But continuing, but Beatrice would hear nothing in Claudio's defense, and she continued to urge on Benedict to right her cousin's wrongs, and she said, "Talk with a man out of the window. A likely thing, sweet hero, she is wronged." I continue scratching that. A likely thing, sweet hero, she is wronged, she is undone. Oh, that were a man for Claudio's sake, or that I had any friend who would be a man for my sake. But bravery is melted into pleasant words. I cannot be a man with witching, therefore I will die a woman with grieving. Wait, good Beatrice, said Benedict, by this hand I love you. Use it for my love some other way than swearing by it, said Beatrice. Do you think on your soul that Claudio was wronger hero? Asked Benedict. Yes, answered Beatrice, as sure as I have a thought or a soul. Enough, said Benedict. I am satisfied. I will call him out and fight him. I will kiss your hand, and so leave it you. By this hand, Claudio shall pay me a dear account. As you hear from me, so think of me. Go, comfort your cousin. While Beatrice was thus powerfully urging Benedict and working his brave temper by the spirit of her angry words to help her in the cause of hero and fight even with his dear friend Claudio, Leonato was calling upon the prince and Claudio to answer with their swords the wrong they had done with his child, who he said had died for grief, but they respected his age and his sorrow, and they said, "Do not carry with us, good old man." And now came Benedict, and he also called upon Claudio to answer with his sword the wrong he had done to Hero, and Claudio and the prince said to each other, Beatrice has set him on to do this. But at this moment, the justice of heaven brought to pass a better proof of the purity of hero than the uncertain fortune of a fight. While the prince and Claudio were still talking about Benedict, Borracho was brought as a prisoner before the prince. He had been overheard talking with one of his companions of the wrong he had been employed by Don John to do. Borracho made a full statement to the prince in Claudio's hearing that it was Margaret dressed in her lady's clothes that he had talked with from the window, whom they had mistaken for the lady hero herself. And so, no doubt, remained in the minds of Claudio and the prince of the goodness of Hero. Don John, finding his wickedness was discovered, fled from Messina to escape the just anger of his brother. The heart of Claudio was sorely grieved when he found he had falsely accused Hero, who he thought he had died upon hearing his cruel words. The memory of his beloved Hero's image came over him, and he said that he felt as if he had taken poison while Borracho was speaking. Claudio therefore asked forgiveness of the old man Leonato for the wrong he had done his child, and promised that whatever punishment Leonato would lay upon him for his fault in believing the false charge against his promised wife, for her dear sake he would bear it. The punishment which Leonato put upon him was to marry the next morning a cousin of Hero's who he said was now his heir, and in appearance very like Hero. Claudio, respecting the solemn promise he made to Leonato, said he would marry this unknown lady, whoever plain she might be, but his heart was very sorrowful, and he passed that night in tears and bitter grief at the stone cross which Leonato had built for Hero. When the morning came, the prince went with Claudio to the church. There the good priest and Leonato and his niece were already met together for the marriage, and Leonato presented to Claudio his promised bride. But her face was covered so that Claudio could not know her. And Claudio said to her, "Give me your hand before this holy priest. I am your husband, if you will marry me. And when I lived, I was your other wife," said this unknown lady, uncovering her face. She proved to be no niece, as was pretended, but Leonato's very daughter, Hero herself. We may be sure that this proved a most pleasant surprise to Claudio, who thought her dead, for he could scarcely for joy believe his eyes, and the prince, who was equally surprised at what he saw, cried out, Is not this Hero that was dead?" Leonato replied, "She died, my lord, but only while she charged against her living." The priest promised to explain this miracle when the service was ended, and was proceeding to marry them when Benedict broke in on him. asking to be married at the same time to Beatrice. Beatrice at first said no to this union, but Benedict said she could not deny her love for him, which he had learned from Hero. So then a pleasant explanation took place, and they found they had both been tricked into a belief of love which had never existed, and had become lovers in truth by the power of a false jest. But the love which a trick had sown was grown too powerful to be shaken by a serious explanation. Benedict refused to consider anything that the world could say against his marriage, and he merely kept up the jest, and swore to Beatrice that he took her but for a pity, and because he heard she was dying of love for him. Beatrice, on her side, said that she yielded only to great persuasion, and partly to save this life, for she heard he was dangerously sick. So these two mad wits became friends and were married too after Claudio and Hero were married. And to finish their story, Don John was taken in his flight and brought back to Messina, and a fine punishment it was to this dark, unhappy man to see the joy and feastings which the failure of his wicked plans took place at the palace in Messina. It's a story of love and shooting and confusion with a marriage in the end. The happy and the good always wins in the end. This is the end of this history, the third history of Lamb's Tales from Shakespeare, with me, Gnomo Fractal. Thank you to access my YouTube channel. It's an experimentation I am doing, and feel free to give me a like and share this video with your friends. Bye.